welcome back to Superbly Said Advanced English Vocabulary and Phrases.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. And just real quick, today's material actually comes straight from a SpeakDuo lesson. So if you want to practice what we're talking about, you can go to SpeakDuo.com to meet new people from around the world.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's great. People are practicing English on video calls, so it's a perfect way to, become more confident with your English speaking abilities.
That is super helpful. And we are just going to transition straight into the idioms at hand today because this session is specifically tailored for advanced English learners.
Right. Skipping the basics.
Exactly. We really want to master those professional and conversational nuances. So let's start by looking at navigating workplace obstacles. Because, well, sudden problems are just inevitable at work.
Oh, absolutely. They always happen when you least expect it.
Always. So our first phrase is being in a jam. And this basically just means you're in a difficult situation.
Right, a really tight spot.
Yeah, and I always compare it to being physically stuck in traffic, like a massive traffic jam. You can't move forward. You can't move backward.
You're just totally stuck.
Exactly. But I am curious, how does this differ from saying you are in a pickle? Because I hear that a lot too.
Yeah, so in a pickle is usually, it feels a bit more comical or just minor.
Like dropping your sandwich or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh no, I'm in a pickle. It's an inconvenience.
Yeah.
But being in a jam implies a much tighter spot with, way higher stakes, like if you're about to miss a major deadline.
Oh, I see. So it's serious.
Very. Like, imagine a work scenario where your primary workstation just completely crashes right before a final submission deadline.
Oh, my nightmare.
Right. And this is actually a great phrase to use if you ever get an IELTS Speaking Part 2 prompt, like, describe a time you had to solve a difficult problem. You were in a jam.
That is a perfect example. And when you are in a jam like that, you really don't have time for small talk, right?
No, definitely not.
You just need to address the core issue immediately, which actually brings us to our second idiom, to cut to the quick.
Ah, yeah. To get straight to the core of an issue.
Right. But, okay, I always say cut to the chase. So how is cut to the quick different from cut to the chase?
Well, so cut to the chase just means skipping the introduction, like getting past the boring stuff.
Right, like skipping to the action scene.
Exactly. But cut to the quick, that implies reaching the absolute, fundamental truth of a problem, or the most sensitive part.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it actually comes from the sensitive skin under your fingernails. So cutting to the quick is painful.
I wince just thinking about that. That's visceral.
It is.
Yeah.
So picture like a high-stakes board meeting. Everyone is avoiding the bad news, and then a manager just cuts to the quick to address a core profitability issue immediately.
Just ripping off the Band-Aid.
Exactly. Rather than discussing minor agenda items. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary.
I love that. So, okay, once the core problem is actually addressed, it's time to move forward with energy, right?
Absolutely. You need momentum.
Which brings us to our third idiom, to hit the ground running, meaning to start an activity energetically and successfully.
Right.
But let me push back on this a bit. Is that really any different than simply, getting off to a good start?
It actually is. Getting off to a good start can still be, a slow, steady process. Like you're learning the ropes, but you're doing well.
Oh, sure. Taking your time, but succeeding.
Right. But hit the ground running implies absolutely zero delay. Like a paratrooper jumping out of a plane. You are operating at a high level of competence from second one.
Wow. Okay. So like an employee who has already reviewed all the internal documentation beforehand?
Yes. So they can literally hit the ground running on their very first day. They aren't asking where the coffee machine is. They're producing work.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And if everyone on a team hits the ground running, the whole project quickly reaches its peak momentum, which ties into our next phrase, in full swing.
Ooh, I like this one.
Right. It means being at the highest level of activity. But how would you contrast that with a project just being underway?
So underway just means it has started, like the doors are open. But in full swing means it has reached absolute peak energy and attendance.
Like maximum capacity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So say you're describing an annual international conference. You could say it is in full swing by Tuesday afternoon.
With every workshop heavily attended.
Yes, exactly. And that's a perfect phrase for an IELTS prompt about a memorable event, by the way. It paints such a vibrant picture.
It really does. But, what happens if that momentum becomes, almost too forceful? Like if it lacks direction.
Oh, then you have a problem.
Right. And that leads us to idiom number 5, to barrel ahead. This means to proceed rapidly and forcefully, often despite explicit warnings.
Right, ignoring the red flags.
Yeah, I always picture a heavy wooden barrel just rolling down a steep hill. It's totally unstoppable, but it's completely out of control.
That is the perfect analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you compare it to, say, move forward, moving forward is neutral. It's safe.
Right, just making regular progress.
But barreling ahead implies a really reckless disregard for planning or warnings.
Like a rogue employee.
Exactly. Imagine a lead developer deciding to barrel ahead with initial feature implementation despite a complete lack of clear requirements from the client.
Oh, that's a disaster waiting to happen. They're just writing code blind.
Right. They're moving fast, but in completely the wrong direction.
And I imagine when people barrel ahead recklessly like that, it inevitably causes conflict, right?
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Teams end up having to defend their work or hide their mistakes.
Which brings us nicely to our third theme, conflict, avoidance, and focus. And our sixth idiom is to fight tooth and nail, meaning to fight fiercely and with great effort.
Yes, very aggressive phrasing.
But why do we use that? Why don't we just say, oh, we fought hard?
Because fighting hard is just, well, standard effort. You put in the work. But fighting tooth and nail evokes this primal, almost desperate defense against a strong opposition.
Like an animal backed into a corner.
Exactly. So you might have a development team fighting tooth and nail to maintain the integrity of their software architecture against proposed budget cuts.
They aren't just sending polite emails, they're fighting for survival.
Right. They're using every weapon they have to stop those cuts.
But during those tense situations, some people don't fight. They actually try to hide the cracks in their armor, which brings us to phrase 7, to gloss over. To briefly or superficially treat a topic, usually to hide a negative truth.
Right. This one is very common in corporate settings.
But how do you contrast gloss over with just summarize? Because you summarize to save time.
And that's the key difference. Summarizing is helpful. It's a transparent way to save time. Glossing over is, well, it's a deceptive way to ignore something important or damaging.
Like painting a shiny gloss over a rusted car door.
Perfect metaphor. So imagine presenters trying to gloss over significant server downtime during a project summary.
Hoping nobody asks about it.
Exactly, but then the stakeholders notice anyway. They weren't summarizing, they were hiding it.
Yeah, that never ends well. And if you are constantly glossing over your mistakes, eventually a manager is going to intervene.
Oh, for sure.
Which leads us to our final phrase, number 8, get your act together.
A classic.
Yeah, it means to organize yourself and behave effectively. But let's say someone is stressed and I tell them to calm down. Is that the same thing?
No, not at all. Calming down is merely emotional regulation. You can be calm and still be completely disorganized.
Oh, that's a good point.
Getting your act together, that requires taking concrete organizational action to actually fix a mess.
Oh, so it's structural.
Right. Imagine a boss telling an employee, you really need to get your act together and finalize your project documentation, or we will miss the submission window.
So it's not about their mood, it's about their output.
Exactly. It's a demand for competence.
That is super clear. Well, all right, we've covered a lot of ground today, so it is time for a quick pop quiz for you, the listener, to test your advanced understanding.
Oh, this should be fun.
Yeah. So for each of the 8 phrases we covered, I'm going to read a question and 3 options.
And you just have to guess the correct context.
Exactly. Let's start. Question 1. Which sentence uses the idiomatic phrase, in a jam, correctly based on context?
Now, hear them.
Option A. The breakfast catering assistant accidentally dropped the fresh fruit preserve in a jam jar.
Okay.
Option B. I was in a jam when my primary workstation crashed right before the final submission deadline. Or option C. The deeply frustrated young retail clerk aggressively managed to completely drop a white line. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer for the phrase, in a jam.
Right, so the correct answer is option B, because being in a jam means being in a high-stakes, tight spot. Just like our workplace example where your workstation crashes right before a deadline.
Right.
You are totally stuck.
Exactly. Okay, question 2. Select the context where the phrase, cut to the quick, is most appropriately used figuratively. Option A. During the high-stakes board meeting, our manager cut to the quick and addressed the core profitability issue immediately. Option B. The professional kitchen culinary assistant was instructed to carefully cut to the quick of the raw vegetable stock. Or option C. The incredibly clumsy warehouse inventory clerk accidentally managed to quickly buy some large systems. Go ahead and pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer for cut to the quick.
So the answer here is option A. To cut to the quick means addressing the fundamental, often painful truth, just like the manager skipping the small talk to confront the core profitability issue head-on.
Awesome. Moving on to question 3. In which situation does someone accurately utilize the phrase "in full swing" contextually? Option A. The park maintenance crew installed a heavy-duty playground equipment set to ensure it stays in full swing.
Well, literal swings there.
Right. Option B. The annual international conference was in full swing by Tuesday afternoon, with every workshop session heavily attended. Or option C. The completely terrified young wilderness traveler unexpectedly noticed an exceptionally massive, heavy tool chest. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer for "in full swing."
The correct answer is option B, because in full swing means at the absolute highest level of activity, right? Like that international conference example,
Yeah.
with packed workshops and peak energy.
Nailed it. Question 4. Which response best demonstrates the advanced phrase "tooth and nail" figuratively? Option A. Our development team fought tooth and nail to maintain the integrity of our software architecture against the proposed budget cuts. Option B. The dental hygiene research assistant was instructed to use a specialized tooth and nail cleaning brush. Or option C. The incredibly clumsy warehouse inventory clerk accidentally managed to quickly catch that white balance. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer for tooth and nail.
That one is option A. Fighting tooth and nail is that primal, desperate defense. So the development team battling to save their architecture from budget cuts perfectly captures that intense corporate fight.
Totally. Okay, halfway there. Question 5. How would a professional accurately use the phrasal verb "gloss over" contextually? Option A. The industrial painting supervisor commanded the team to gloss over the final protective metal railing layer. Option B. The completely confused amateur theater group unexpectedly decided to proudly paint a clean frame. Or option C. During the project summary, the presenters tried to gloss over the significant server downtime, but the stakeholders noticed. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer for "gloss over."
The right answer is option C. Glossing over means trying to hide a negative truth, just like those presenters deceptively trying to skip past the server downtime before anyone noticed.
Spot on. Question 6. Which scenario perfectly illustrates the meaning of the phrase "get your act together" contextually? Option A. The Dramatic Arts Academy instructor gave the students a script to get your act together for the final show. Option B. You really need to get your act together and finalize your project documentation, or we will miss the submission window. Or option C. The incredibly clumsy hotel maintenance worker accidentally managed to completely drop that red tray. Go ahead and pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer for "get your act together."
The answer is option B, because it's a strict demand to organize yourself.
Yeah.
Like the boss demanding the employee finalize their documentation before they miss the submission window.
Yep, getting structurally organized. All right, question 7. Which sentence accurately utilizes the advanced phrase "hit the ground running" contextually? Option A. Because he had already reviewed the internal documentation, he managed to hit the ground running on his very first day. Option B. The track and field sprint coach instructed his athletes to hit the ground running during the final leg of the race. Or option C. The deeply confused young kitchen assistant accidentally managed to quickly slice a fresh piece of ground. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer for "hit the ground running."
That's option A. Hitting the ground running implies starting with zero delay and high competence, like that highly prepared employee who read all the docs so they could instantly add value on day one.
Absolutely. And our last one, question 8. Which of the following statements correctly uses "barrel ahead" figuratively? Option A. The industrial shipping foreman instructed the warehouse workers to barrel ahead the massive oil drums. Option B. Despite the lack of clear requirements, the lead developer decided to barrel ahead with the initial feature implementation. Or option C. The completely confused amateur artist Un Jin. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer for "barrel ahead."
And the final correct answer is option B. Barreling ahead is that forceful, reckless momentum without a plan, just like the developer coding at lightning speed without any clear client requirement.
Perfect. Well, massive congratulations to you, the listener, for completely upgrading your vocabulary today.
Yeah, great job. And, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Notice how the most advanced, native-sounding idioms in English rely on deeply physical imagery.
Oh, like hitting the ground.
Yeah, we fight with actual teeth and nails. We barrel like a heavy object. So I challenge you to start visualizing the physical actions behind the words you learn. It really helps them stick forever.
That is brilliant advice. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next one.